Hello, this is Nanami. Today I'd like to talk about something that we all do, judging others and ourselves. I will explain how judging affects our lives and state of being and offer a perspective that you may want to consider if you find yourself judging. First, I want to talk about consciousness. We may think that our 3D body is ourselves, but from a spiritual perspective, we are not our body, mind, or emotions. This can be said because these may act on their own, and in a matter of fact, we are able to observe them objectively. If we can observe them objectively, then we are not those body, mind, or emotions. We are actually the observer of these, meaning we are that which is conscious of our body, mind, and emotions. In other words, we are consciousness. You may want to think about what consciousness is and perhaps where it is. I like to think of consciousness as made up of particles, although this may not be an accurate explanation of consciousness. If consciousness were made up of particles, where can you find those particles? You can find them out there in the world that you are aware of. So that world that you are aware of in front of you is you yourself. In short, I equals consciousness equals the world that I am aware of. These three are all the same. I think we've all heard before that everyone and everything around us is a reflection of us. But once you grasp the sense of consciousness, you may also begin to understand that those people and things are not merely reflections of you, but they are indeed yourself. You are that other person and you are that other thing that you're perceiving. Because what you're perceiving is your consciousness itself, and consciousness is you yourself. To give you a metaphor of this, when you look into a mirror, for instance, yes, you will find a reflection of you, but that person in the mirror is undoubtedly you yourself. The reflection is you. It goes the same with consciousness. Everything that you perceive is a reflection of you, but at the same time, they are all indeed you yourself. So if you want to know about yourself, you can use the outside world to your advantage to understand about yourself. As you know, we cannot directly see our own face with our own naked eyes, so we need a mirror to see our own face. Likewise, we need the outside world to realize what's inside ourselves. So, if you have a desire to know about yourself, then you may want to become aware of how you perceive the outer world. So, to simply put what I've explained here, your outer world is equivalent to your inner world. So, on the basis of this understanding of consciousness, if you, for example, see a person in front of you and you thought that that person is obnoxious, then you identified a part of your consciousness as obnoxious, meaning you found an aspect of yourself that is obnoxious. In the real world, that person in front of you is not inherently obnoxious. Well, other people might perceive that person as very loving and kind, or some other people may find him or her as very intelligent. Everybody will perceive that person differently. But if you felt uncomfortable witnessing what you interpret as obnoxious behavior, you've encountered an obnoxious aspect of yourself. We cannot perceive something that is not already within us. Like if we look into a mirror, we don't find somebody else there other than ourselves. The same goes with the 3D world. We find only ourselves in other people. And of course, this is not to say that you are a bad person for having an obnoxious character. It's not about good or bad, but rather it's about whether you have claimed ownership of that trait. It's about acceptance. You've noticed that obnoxiousness in the other person because you may have labeled being obnoxious as a negative trait, and therefore you have not accepted, allowed, or forgiven that negative aspect of yourself. So, what's happening here is that by dissociating yourself from obnoxiousness, that dissociated part of yourself is being manifested into your outer world, in this case, the person in front of you. What you're not accepting, what you're denying and avoiding, and what you keep judging negatively about will repeatedly come into your reality as a problem until you have realized and accepted them. As they say, what you resist will persist. I know it's often difficult to accept and admit those negative aspects of yourself, but strangely enough, once you have claimed ownership of them, there will be fewer obnoxious people around you than before, and you will start noticing different aspects of other people, perhaps more beautiful aspects, or perhaps another negative aspect that you yourself need to acknowledge. Ultimately, it's not that the other person has a problem. It's only that there is a person called me who is labeling that person as obnoxious. If you fully understand this, you may realize that there really is no serious problem going on here. Everyone and everything are there for you to help you with your spiritual growth. No matter how far and how deep you contemplate on the problem, there really is only you that you need to think about. Everything is only about you and only you. It's very difficult to accept this fact, especially when you're going through difficult times. But don't try and force to change even a speck of dust in the outer world. It will be wiser if you endeavor to shift your perception and honestly face and embrace that so-called negative aspect of yourself. So then, what happens if you don't claim ownership of that obnoxiousness that you've been denying? Well, if you keep dissociating that aspect of yourself, you'll likely find yourself surrounded by more obnoxious people. And not only that, but as time goes by, you may notice your own obnoxiousness being further enhanced. From what I notice in my life is that what I judge in other people is what I myself become. What I judge in my world is what I judge to be in my consciousness, which is myself. And the more critical I become towards my world, the more energy goes in the direction towards what I criticized. The accumulated energy eventually becomes significant that it can no longer be hidden inside me, but I start seeing more of that in my reality. And before I know it, I myself become what I criticized. And what's worse, it's often the case that I don't even realize that I'm becoming what I criticized or that I already am what I criticized until something devastating happens to me. I first realized this phenomenon with my friend many years ago when I wasn't yet familiar with all these spiritual and psychological concepts yet. This friend of mine, he was downplaying a new employee who had joined his workplace. This new employee was a woman who was entirely new to this job, and my friend, he was saying, "Oh, she's not a big deal." And by saying that, I guess he was trying to imply his own capability. But about 10 years later, what happened was that that woman received a promotion and she achieved a higher position in the company than my friend who had been making fun of her. Her promotion occurred a couple of years ago, but to this day, my friend is still struggling to attain that same promotion. So my friend became what he criticized, meaning he manifested himself to be the one who is not a big deal in the context of his workplace. I've noticed similar things happening to other people too, including myself. And every time I notice this happening to me, I personally begin to feel ashamed and embarrassed for having judged others, especially in a negative way. But I've come to realize that such phenomena are happening to me so as to make me realize what I need to realize for my spiritual growth. I also found that all these negative judgments were coming from my own underlying fears, and those fears were actually being manifested into the outer world. I realized that I had been just trying to cover my own fear or low self-concept by making negative statements about other people. All along, I had been avoiding my fears while I should have faced them as they were without deceiving myself and without making everything about the other person. I should have realized and accepted the fact that my unwanted reality was made up of particles of my own fear. And all of this that I talked about to this point goes the same with what you're judging about yourself. If you say to yourself, "Oh, why am I so stupid?" then your brain will go look for proof that you are stupid. And unfortunately, you will find many of those proofs of your perceived stupidity in the world around you. Not only that, but your body will also take what you said as a command for you to become even more stupid. You will literally become what you hate about yourself. This is indeed the law of assumption. If you want to better your life, you have to be careful what thoughts and words come out of you. So what I now do when I see something unpleasant in my consciousness is I try to become more aware of how I react to it, because my reactions, including my emotions and the words that come out of me, tell me about what's in my subconscious mind. Nothing will come out of me if it's not already inside of me. I simply take that unpleasant situation as a piece of information or as a hint to let me know what I need to realize for myself. And I connect with myself and fully acknowledge that what I'm judging about others is actually about myself. Then I may work on myself to clear out my subconscious mind. I may consider what beliefs I have. I may feel through my negative emotions. I may go see my inner child. I may look into my relationship with my parents. Or I may try to see things from a different perspective. Or otherwise, many of those negative situations will disappear for the most part just by realizing that I was the one who was making this all happen. If I realize that I am the generator of my own world, then I can regain control of my own life instead of myself being overly influenced or swayed by what's happening in the 3D world. Life seems to respond to you in accordance with how you respond to life. We want to take a step back when we find ourselves judging and aim to expand our own awareness towards neutrality. There really is no end to expanding our awareness, and in that sense, I feel that life is a long journey. So to summarize my message, you are consciousness, and consciousness is everything that you are aware of. What you perceive negative in the 3D world is what you have hidden inside yourself that you have been neglecting all along. If you keep on judging others and yourself in a negative way and continue ignoring that unwanted part of you, that will be solidified in your consciousness. And before you know it, that ugly part of you that has been sleeping inside you will be fully awakened in the 3D world in the form of repeated problems. Or otherwise, you will eventually notice yourself becoming more of what you judged in others and yourself. We want to remember that it's not about that thing outside of ourselves that is the problem. It's just that by looking into the mirror called reality, we find a person called me who is judging that thing as bad. Because as a matter of fact, it is me who is actually possessing that so-called problem. So instead of pushing away the problem, try to integrate all of what you have found in your consciousness. In other words, welcome and embrace both the positive and negative aspects of yourself that you may have been unknowingly possessing. then to the glory of God, what you will find out there in the world is an unbelievable amount of love and beauty. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. See you next time. Bye!